Start early. All right. I would like to call the November 2023 City Council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like we have some guests today. Wow. Wow. Did we check their IDs? All right. Thank you for coming. Roll call. We have Marissa's excused today, and we have Council President Greisen and Councilor Santiago remote. Everybody else is present. We have a consent agenda or an agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilor Holmes. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Councilor LaFrenz seconds. Any discussion?
Yes. Can I propose that we move the discussion for the, since we just finished talking about it, can we move it up?
We do have our attorney on remote
Oh,
for
I
the
see.
number 2
Yes.
session, so
We could get her in and out. That would
we
be
could go,
best.
that's one, that should go fairly quick, Councilor Santiago.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comment. Do we have any, Susan? Anybody want to speak tonight? Sure. Anybody online want to speak? All right, we will close public comment. Moving on to the consent agenda. Tonight we have on our consent agenda, we have November 6, 2023 City Council work session meeting minutes, November 6, 2023 City Council meeting minutes, and appointment of Marty Marquis as a full member of the Planning Commission. Marty here tonight? All right, there's Marty. And the Basalt Well contract approval, contract number 2023-29. I'm looking for someone to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Santiago, or Councilor Greisen.
it's okay. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
To my Councilor President Greisen, the consent agenda. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Councilor Miller. Any discussion? I would like to thank you, Mr. McKee, for stepping up to the plate. Any more discussion? Questions for Marty? All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, tonight's new business, number 2, resolution number 23-18, a resolution adopting a specific policy for system development charge calculations in connection with commercial to residential conversions as required by House Bill 2984. Tonight, we are joined by his Community Director. Lori.
He's unable to be here tonight, and so, yeah, Ashley's going to go ahead and go over this.
Legal
with you all.
Counsel Ashley Dugal is here tonight to explain. Take it away.
Yes, thank you, Council, and it's nice to see you all. I promise I will try to keep it pretty brief. So this policy adoption is, like you said, for SDCs per House Bill 2984. This House Bill was adopted this past year, and it amends ORS 197308, which relates to housing. And the goal of this House Bill is just to ease housing development within Oregon cities, specifically with a population over 10,000. And in relevant part, it requires these cities to permit building conversions from commercial to residential use without any zone change or conditional use permit, subject to certain requirements and limited restrictions that are in the bill. Cities can charge SDCs or system development charges in this context, but only if these cities adopt a specific SDC policy before December 31st of this year. And as a note, this policy does not apply to water or wastewater SDCs that are offset by any SDCs that were paid previously when the building was originally constructed. So even though your city isn't currently at 10,000, we still encourage you to adopt this policy now to preserve this right for the future. The statute doesn't currently contain language regarding a city that reaches this threshold after the House bill adoption, but does not have a specific 2023 policy in place. So it's just legally safer to just adopt one now rather than waiting. So I looked through your current code chapter on SDCs, which is chapter 1324. And this chapter generally appears to be pretty sufficient, though I would like to complete a more in-depth review in the future and probably suggest some clarifying edits just to address this specific situation. But it does seem sufficient for your needs and your immediate purpose currently in the context of this House bill. And so therefore, I think the easiest option is just to expressly adopt that specific chapter of your code as your SDC policy for these types of conversions. Then in the future, even if you reach 10,000 or in the near future, in the next year, we can look closer at your chapter and see if there's any edits that need to be made.
We're not in the process of looking at it this moment, are we?
No, we're really just
No.
looking at for this one specific change right now.
Really, the key is just to get a policy adopted and in place, and then you can do what you need with that policy once it's there. So it's how it's adopted, and then future amendments would also apply.
So with the adoption of this resolution, it would still give us the space to be adaptable and flexible as needed in the future. And if we did not take this step, then we really have limited future options.
Exactly. And it only applies in a very remote scenario, right? First, you have to hit a population of 10,000. Then there has to be someone who wants to do this conversion from commercial to residential. And then the city wants to charge SDCs in that context. So it's still a relatively remote scenario, but it really doesn't hurt to plan, for that eventual possibility.
And with us, if we approve this tonight, does it take 30 days to then go into effect, or is it immediate? So it would be
I
by the end of the
believe
year.
This one takes.
I believe it's
I think it's
immediate.
effective upon passage. Yes, so it's effective
Mhm.
immediately.
Councilor Santiago?
Councillor Kim, Holmes already kind of asked half the question I was asking. For me, it was just why the rush? It seems like it. And I get it. I get eventually we're going to be at 10,000, though I think we're only at 8, and we've only grown since I've been here like 1,000, and that's been over 15 years. So I am just curious of
My understanding is if it could be 7 years before we're at 10,000, but if nothing changes in 7 years, we won't be able to do this if we don't adopt this resolution. Yes, things could change in the next 7 years, possibly, but we don't know that. So if we pass this resolution, that allows us to down the road.
Right. So what House Bill 2984 is saying simply is that cities need to have this in place before the end of this year, this calendar year, in order to be able to charge these in the future. It doesn't speak to whether or not, if you've hit the 10,000 mark after that date, whether or not you can put this in place. So in an abundance of caution, we're simply saying that we should put it in place so that we preserve the option to do that once we hit 10,000. Otherwise, we may forfeit that right forever.
Okay, so this is the
Exactly.
unknown. Okay, all right. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
And I would just add, on the 50-year planning committee, this is a scenario that we've discussed, the potential of our very limited commercial zoned land getting flipped to residential. So I don't think it's, a far-fetched scenario for that to potentially
I
happen.
agree. Yeah. No, I think it's something to think about.
Any more questions, discussion, any motions, recommendations?
Mr. Mayor, I will go ahead and move council approve resolution 23-18, a resolution adopting a specific policy for system development charge calculations in connection with commercial to residential conversions as required by House Bill 2984.
We have a motion made by Councilor Holmes. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor LaFrenz. Any discussion? We have a motion to council to approve resolution 23-18, a resolution adopting a specific policy for system development charge calculations in connection with commercial to residential conversions as required by House Bill 2984. No more discussion. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, we're back to Scappoose Adventure Fest. Adventure Festival. We discussed this in the work session. JJ Duran gave us her proposal. We had some discussion. We can continue that. Do we feel that do we need to make a decision on this tonight so we can kind of at least move forward? Speaking about Treadway, if we wanted to down scope at all, we have a feeling that Treadway probably wants to keep it where it is at minimum. Anybody have any feeling, more questions?
I do have a few more
Councilor Miller?
questions. JJ, would you mind, so it's, so everybody online can hear you? Thank you. So first of all, thank you for your effort that you've put into this. And I am in agreement that I think it's better positioned if a community group manages this event. I do have a question about the lack of a better term governance of what's happening here. So you've been the face so far, but do you have a board or a committee or a group? How can you kind of explain foundationally of how that is going? And in terms of your proposal here with what you have outlined, was this all things that you guys came to a consensus with as a group?
Yes.
Okay, so
And then our group is really more of an ad hoc, Tyler. So basically, we've been working closely with Community Club for the past 6 years, but we also work with the Scappoose Bay Watershed, where they, when we did our movie nights, what we did was that with nonprofit community organizations, we would just let them have booths there for free, because we think it's so important to involve them in these events. And that would be the same idea. So for instance, with the Scappoose Bay Watershed, in doing a native plant identification deal for kids, they wouldn't be paying for that. They would just be there showcasing that because they have their wonderful native plant sale. And so we would also maybe give them the opportunity to sell native plants there.
So just in the interest of time, I just want to go back to my first question. So
Yeah.
who was all on your committee that came up with this plan, just for the record?
So Scott Burridge, Christine Turner, and myself. I also talked extensively to Mike Sykes, but they were primarily the group. And I also, Jeff, we went by it with Jeff as well.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because the city's contemplating, contributing $10,000 to this. So I think is kind of the foundation of all this. We need to understand, how this group is meeting, how this group is making decisions. I don't think that personally, I do not think that it's our position to prescribe every detail of this because we're a contributor.
Correct.
We have to be comfortable, of course, with the theme and the general, overall plan. But for me, I'm more concerned that this is being put together by a group of people with a general consensus and there's stability there. And that what we're seeing in this plan is a consensus of everybody that's on that group. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and just the quick point too, bringing Scott onto this has really been pretty essential because he actually has a great template for Wings and Wheels, as well as a great client base to work on that. And they were very successful at that. So, we will be doing a lot of work conceptualizing it, making something that is actually really substantial. But those are all things that are very achievable.
Okay. Yeah, and
Well, and just we're also planning on getting more people involved as well. But that's just been kind of the I would say brain trust, but just people that are knowledgeable about this, that are willing to do the work.
and I think part of the attraction of this was actually involving people, the community members in this event. That seems to resonate the best, in general for this event. Obviously you can get too many people involved and then you can never make a decision. But I think for me, I want to know that we do have, 5 to 7 people on something like this. If we're being asked to contribute 10,000 or any significant amount of money. I will say that I am not a fan of the Palooza name by the literal definition of it, but it's not for me to decide.
Well, and let me just say that is a working title. So we're totally open to a great idea. I just, and of course, President Greason also said that as well. I just really wanted to come up with something to create excitement about summer. So I am not the end all on naming things, although I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, I just want to focus more on the quality of the organization, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And less on the specific details of what
Sure.
you guys want to do.
Right.
I don't think that's.
I think it's absolutely essential to involve people that have experience and knowledge, and you know, whether it's running radio stations or my real estate work that I do, I really have an eye for talent, and you know, the people that I recruited and brought into this, I think are very talented and very able to execute this.
Thank you.
And I'll get Counselor Santiago, just say, I would like to be a part of the organization of group two
I don't know.
if they have me. And we've got a
would
bunch
love
of
that.
seniors in high school, I think that would be willing.
Yeah,
to
the
come
senior
too.
center. Yeah,
These-
yeah,
no, these
yeah.
kind of seniors, not seniors.
Well, and
They
then
need
but, yeah.
community
No,
service
we need your
hours.
help.
Community service hours.
Thank you.
Counselor Santiago.
I just want to clarify, and for clarification purposes and record purposes, is that it's my understanding that the library is going to be the foundation, the organization that is actually putting on this event. And so we as a city will be giving or donating the amount to the city, I'm sorry, to the library. And then Jeff, being that you're head of the library or the organization, you would make that decisions and all the budgeting and so forth. And then you have JJ, thank you for you guys planning all this. It was great. Her as, and the whole group as a support. Is that right? That's my understanding.
The library would be the fiscal agent. We would carry the insurance. We would pay the bills. We would actually contract and arrange for everything that happens.
So you'll be the ultimate decision at the end because you're the one that's handling the money. Is that right?
Yes and no. With the other events that we do, the annual events, there is a group decision process. And it, yes or no depends on whether we have enough money to do it. It's not my decision of what movies we show, who the entertainment is, and that sort of thing.
But the city would be cutting a check to the library. That's accurate, Councilor
Right.
Santiago. Yes.
So are you asking as the representative of the library, Jeff, are you asking for 10 or are you asking for 20?
I honestly think it'll take 20 to put the event on, and I've been instructed by my board to ask for the amount makes the event happen without, you know, bankrupting the library.
And that would be 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of just the staffing shortage we have.
Counselor Grayson.
I just want to clarify that the pitch for 20,000 is the total amount that's needed, not necessarily the amount that is needed to be sponsored by the city, correct? I mean, you're hoping that we would sponsor that much, but in general, the entire sponsorship, the entire budget would be $20,000. And it's then however much we choose as a council to sponsor the event, but 20,000 is your budget, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
But it may, depending on sponsorships, then it may result in the library having to withdraw.
Is there anything else we would need before? Like, would we want her to put together a committee and showing us a committee and maybe some names and sponsors, before you do commit to a certain amount of money?
Well, and is it possible that the city could say, the city could commit up to $20,000, guaranteed 10?
Yes.
And then if there's a lack of sponsorship dollars that come in, we could fill that gap?
I think that's very reasonable. And I also told Jeff that I would write a check, cover it. I can write that check.
Councilor President Grayson.
I mean, I think what Counselor Holmes is saying is we all want this event to be successful and we don't want things to fall short. And if needed, we would do our best. However, I do know potentially you've mentioned quite a list of people that you are seeking sponsorships from or grant funds from. So I think we just really need to remove ourselves that this is not our event and we have faith in this organization to carry it out the best they can with the plan that they've presented. And we really just have to, in good faith, write that check and hope that it's used in the capacity that they've committed to. They have a track record of hosting events in the past with Movies in the Park and Earth Day and other library events and other community events. I think that it's really just one of those things where we have to remove ourselves from the situation and just commit to writing the check and be done with that. But then the understanding that moving forward, these grants that are happening or the sponsorships that are taking place, that the name of the city of Scappoose is not used because it is not our event and they are acting as their own separate group, separate entity, that we are just one of hopefully many sponsors for this event.
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. Yes.
And I would, again, try to limit our staff on the time that they would be spending on this, other than with permits and answering some questions. But are you comfortable at all, Megan, with a tiered amount where it's up to this amount, but this amount minimum in case to help in case they don't get quite every sponsor that they're hoping for? Or do we just go offer a set amount and they can accept it and go from there?
Yeah, I think this event is really going to just really be based on the kind of money that they have to work with, and the more the better, obviously. We had decided as a council, and I think that the public had made it really well known, including people in this group, that we didn't want to pay people to put on an event anymore, and that there were people in the community that were willing to do it. So I do have some hesitancy in that second budget item that came through at $10,000 to be paying for staff time, because that was one of the things we were looking to remove from this entire situation. I'm open to discussion on that. If we didn't have the staff capacity to do that, that's why we paid somebody else to do it. And that's the one thing that we really wanted to remove from this situation. But it seems to me that that is still lingering, and even the cost per participant with this event being much smaller, it's looking like paying for staff hours is just as much with that ratio as it was in the past. So I think that's something we need to consider. Are we paying for the event itself, or are we paying for people to put on the event? I think that's a discussion we need to have.
One thought I had was if it was a tiered amount, we would sponsor a $10,000 sponsor up to 15. But it would, whatever they would get in fundraisers and sponsorships would deduct, and it would be, $10,000 would be our sponsorship. And anything above and beyond that, if they could raise 10 themselves, that extra money is saved for next year and put aside. Yes, Councilor Miller.
I just want to clarify something here for the record. Jeff, this document, this is for the library, right? For the
correct,
cost.
yeah.
Okay, so that's only for library staff time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically taking your time and if you're going to be organizing and scheduling a lot of this.
Right. Well, and Jeff also, I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned it, but he also has to work the desk.
Yeah.
15, 20 hours a week. So that just frees up his time to work on this.
I would like to actually talk about this a little bit as Council President Greisen mentioned. Where do you come up with these numbers? So you have, I'm going to read this just for the record here. Teen Temp 1 for hours is 150, 3,500. Teen Temp 2, 150 at $3,500. Extra staff hours for library hourly employees 100 at 3,000 for a total of 10,000.
The teen hours are based on what our introductory, our bottom level pay is. We had a teen intern this summer that we got a grant from the state to pay, and they're based on that hours, and we'd be paying at the same rate.
So is this more of a wish list, or is this what you absolutely think that you're gonna need as a minimum to pull this off and feel good and be able to talk to your board? Or
Yeah,
show up to your next
that
board
is
meeting
the,
after?
because, you can think you're going to get volunteers, but I've served on every committee for every event that's been put on since I started working here 6 years ago. And you end up with a core group of about 5 people who do everything. And a lot of the people who tell you they want to volunteer at the event or on the committee just don't show up. So in my position as the library director with our tiny budget, you know, if I have something that I'm certain, like say Sauerkraut Festival is going to suck away hundreds of hours, I have to cover that somehow.
Council President Grayson?
Maybe Alex and Isaac can kind of fill in the gaps, but I'm just sort of having some deja vu of this is why we had to go with Treadway, because in the end, when it was coming to that 100-year celebration, as Jeff was mentioning, people had committed to helping. Things were not necessarily picking up in the way that this event could successfully take off, and we had to fill in with Treadway. And you know, under my understanding was that this, like, I mean, Jeff had said, you always hope that people will step up and help. I didn't really realize that this was going to, you know, as we couldn't have the capacity with our staff fall on, now we're paying library staff to put on this event. And I think that we had decided as a council that if this is something that the community is saying they are willing to participate in, then that is fully something that should need to be embraced. And that, you know, as it wasn't going to fall on city staff and we had to hire Treadway, I don't think that it's I don't think that it's in the best interest, or I hate for it to fall on library staff when they do have actual commitments to our community in terms of servicing the library. I'm just really grappling with, you know, all these names that are being mentioned, and you know, they've got skin in the game and they're excited to plan this event, but yet now we're paying library staff to actually put it on. I'm having a hard time balancing that, since this is sort of the same thing that played out a few years ago for us with city staff.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, I think that there was definitely a lot of excitement around the 100-year event, and, you know, we had a lot of volunteers, but I think we recognized and council recognized at the time that that was a very special time in the city. We were celebrating our centennial, and I think there was concern that we couldn't continue that forward. And so I think that's where we had brought in Treadway to kind of supplement staff, essentially staff time, and in recognition that it was harder to get volunteers. I don't know if that would continue to be the case here, but yeah, I mean, that was how we ended up kind of in that situation eventually over time, as you know, as the event evolved. That's why we did end up with a professional event coordinator, kind of, you know, was for that reason. Add to that at all, but
I just don't want to sacrifice the time of library personnel from doing what is their commitment to the community in terms of their scope and their job to be putting on this event. I don't think that pressure should be solely put on the library. And
They should be just the fiscal agent and should be put on by a community club type group.
yeah, I mean, if people are really
volunteers.
saying they're willing to step up and do this, just like they said they were willing to step up and do it at the 100-year, then hopefully we can make this happen. But I just, I'm not saying that people shouldn't get paid to do event planning, but that's not really the scope of the library. And I think that people should really recognize that and put some effort into making this happen if they're saying that that's what they were committed to do. And I'm not calling anyone in the room out or anything like that, but
Council Santiago?
I have a hard time.
Sorry, Meg.
I hear you, Councilor Grayson. Me being one of the organizers at the 100th-year celebration, that it is a lot of work for the community, but having a fiscal organization, that was one of the hardest part of the organization. And so the fact that the library is stepping up and saying, yes, we can be that organization, take the insurance, take that, that's huge for it. I don't think even with the support of all the volunteers, I think that it'll be very difficult to have this event without having an organization like the library. And I think that's the whole point. I mean, we're here just to say whether we're gonna offer them 10,000 versus 20, right? Not, I guess somebody said we're not, it's not up to us how they spend the money. So they can be spending it on the bouncy house or they can spend it on their staff. The point is that I think we're just here to decide whether we're gonna sponsor 10 or 20. And I think 20 for the amount of work that they're going to do, for all this stuff, for everything that's going to be part of the event, just to guarantee as a city that it's going to happen. I think it's worth it.
One thing if we offer $10,000 to JJ to go back to her organizational group and see if they feel comfortable coming up with the balance, that then go to Jeff and say, we're going to get you the whole 20,000. Are we comfortable with just a $10,000 donation or sponsorship?
I think that question needs to go to Jeff. Jeff,
Yeah.
what are you confident in doing? Because it sounds like your concern is, so first off, based on what Council President Greisen said, I don't think the concern is, and I think you're willing to be the physical agent for the money received. I think to Council President Greisen, unless I'm mistaken what you said, is that is just where you're paying for staff time there, but you're still willing to be the physical agent. So you would still be involved to that extent. It's just the labor that you're concerned about. But anyway, back to my question is, what do you need to feel comfortable to have the library involved in this, and by what date?
And I figure that it's going to cost $10,000 just in hard cost for the event itself. And then on top of that, I have to find some way to increase staff time, and I can't do that at the current budget.
And that's under the assumption, though, that you will need paid staff because the volunteers aren't going to do everything that needs to be done.
I can guarantee you we're going to need some sort of paid staff at some level because I've done too many events.
Do we know
Yeah,
if your staff is willing to take on those additional duties?
That's why I was looking at, they said that they were at staff meeting 2 weeks ago to a very limited extent. That's why I was looking at hiring a couple temporary, teenage employees to help during that period.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the balance here in how far us as council gets involved with the finer details of things. I think really we need to focus on just making sure that we feel comfortable this is going to happen. My other concern is that it's either like 10 or 20,000, because then it becomes an issue of, okay, well, if we give you 10,000, then how are you two going to split the money up? Because Jeff, if you're saying that you need money for staff, then are you going to take some of that 10,000? How does that affect your budget for being able to do the things you want to do?
That's a really great question, Tyler. So first off, let me say I'm extremely confident that we're going to raise at least 10 grand for this, based on our meeting this morning and just clients that I've reached out to. I think that's a very doable number. But I also, here's the other thing that was interesting. So in the budget that Jeff gave us, we also talked about the fact that Christine has a great relationship with Hudson Garbage. And so going out and having them donating the porta potties is a very real possibility, which, by the way, they did for Earth Day. So it's really, it's kind of that thing of like, yes, we need a certain amount of cash, but to get people to give us product in kind to make those things happen is extremely doable.
Sir LaFrance?
Yeah, sorry, we've been kind of going around quite a bit. I just wanted to clarify something for the record. So is it, JJ, what you're proposing is essentially kind of a package deal, right? Like you can't do this without Jeff, correct?
Jeff is an essential part of it. He is exceptional. And he needs more money anyway, but yes.
Okay. That's it. I just wanted.
And this will be, we never mentioned, but the Saturday's farmer's market will be going on as well.
Yes, and that there is a reason for me scheduling that as well, to have already foot traffic going on. But we have tremendous following with the movies in the park. I was, and I was kind of surprised with Earth Day, because 2 years ago they'd asked if I'd help with that. It was like, they gave me 2 weeks, and it's like, I can't do that. But, and I really wasn't sure what kind of response we were going to get with Earth Day, but we have such a great reputation with movies in the park. It was, I mean, I had all the sponsors in a week.
So would it be the case that council could offer 10,000 for the support staff, which would assure the library, funding for your participation in this? And then JJ, it would be up to you and the group to
Yep.
raise the rest of the money.
Yep, very confident
your
we can do
operating
that.
budget?
I got to write the check, I'll write the check.
So then we're back to 10,000, and to Counselor Miller's point, it doesn't really matter. We shouldn't be dictating how those dollars are necessarily used, right?
Right. I mean, I think if this is something we would like to try and we say 10,000 is our number, we give that to a proposal and they got to go decide if that will work.
Right.
If the main sponsorship from us is 10,000, they can make this work, then they can come back to us and say, we accept and we're going to get this done.
The only thing that I would ask on that point is that you guys solidify what exactly you're going to be doing so that we know for sure.
Well,
who we're a
absolutely.
Sponsor of.
Absolutely,
Come
yes.
back
And I would also, I'd be very happy to come back and
Sponsor that gets us-
absolutely, yes, yes, absolutely.
Council President Grayson.
I'm ready to make a motion if anybody's willing to.
I will write it down.
Perfect. I move to authorize the city manager to write a check in the amount of $10,000 to the Scappoose Public Library in order to fund the activities and event of summer, whatever we want to call it, in June 2024. I think hopefully that's
Yeah.
been made clear about what that means. But $10,000 in any manner to make this event happen
Can we
on
amend
behalf of the
that?
city as a sponsor.
Yes, Jeff?
Even though I'm not on council, can we amend that so that it's not written immediately?
Oh,
We have cash flow. I mean, it's not a cash flow
I would
problem.
just like to be a sponsor. I would like the city of Scappoose to be a sponsor of this summer event in the amount of $10,000.
We have a motion from Council President Grayson to be a $10,000 sponsor to the Scappoose Summer Kickoff event. Check would be made out to the library. Enough, any seconds?
I
I
like
will
to
second that.
propose, I was going to propose something else. Can I do that?
Well, let's do it. If we have a second and then during the discussion, you can discuss. Have a
Okay.
second.
I'll second the motion for authorizing $10,000 sponsorship.
Any discussion?
Well, can I clarify, was the motion was that the money could only be spent on activities and not labor?
It will just go to library and they decide where it would go towards. Counselor Santiago, you had a discussion question?
Yeah, I would like to add to that if they do come back for additional, I think that's what I heard, that if they do come back for just propose another funding for 10,000, that we would be open for that.
I think we would be open to listen, but
Right.
we would have to see, this is our first, our offer at this time,
Okay.
at least based on our
Wanna make-
motion and our second. Council President Grayson?
Just for planning purposes of this event, I think it's important that we stay very clear that they can account for $10,000 will be coming their way. I think we're a little attached to this event because this is something that we personally have been putting on the last few years, but I think allowing ourselves to step back and remove ourselves and allowing us just to be a sponsor without getting into the weeds of giving more or less later, it seems to me that they seem pretty confident to be able to put on a successful event and they'll find the funds from other sponsors. We've seen the long list that, in my opinion, we're just committed to the $10,000.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yay!
Well, and I'm, off the record. Well,
I don't think
We'll
that
make
exists
it.
in a council meeting there.
We'll make it happen. I mean,
We will. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
make
And
it
thank you
happen.
so much for believing in this. I think it's going to be exciting. It's been great talking to all of you. And hopefully we can get everybody volunteering, helping us with this, because it's for a great cause. And we hopefully also see you at Earth Day, which is an important thing for this community.
Yeah, and I'm,
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited about this being taken over by community members too. I think that just resonates a lot better. So thank you for taking this on.
Thank you,
Well, thank
JJ.
you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Jeff.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. High school still does community service hours, right? Right? Right. Okay. Where to read here? Hey, the exciting part, moving on, calendar. Number. Oh, I got December 4th, council work session, 6 PM. Council meeting at 7 PM. December 11th, council work session at 6 PM, followed by council meeting at 7 PM. Thursday, December 14th, planning commission at 7 PM. Thursday, December 21st, EDC meeting at noon. And Parks and Rec meeting at 6 PM. They might have canceled that one.
December committee
Christmas.
meetings are canceled, correct?
Happy holidays. City offices will be closed on Monday, December 25th and 26th. And a planning commission meeting on December 28th, 7 PM.
Okay, so the committee meetings for December are canceled.
Okay. And I shouldn't have, are we okay? I mean, do you need anything more, being that this was festival? I'd like to appreciate and thank Treadway for their years. I think we've just decided to try something different.
That's fine.
Yeah, they did it. I
Yeah.
think they did a great job in the previous years and everything that I observed.
Yeah.
I'm sure they know that.
The work that I did with them shortly there, I appreciate it. They were great to me. Moving on, city manager updates.
Nothing real significant. Just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And just as always, that I'm just really, really thankful for our staff. They do work really hard. They do a great job. Think that we, are able to do a lot with a very small amount of people. So that I'm just, really proud to be a part of the team and to work with them. So I just wanted to point that out. And I hope council also has a great holiday, and just thank you all for your leadership and vision with the city as well. That's it.
Thank you. Chief Lugal.
Apologize for my tardiness. I was out handling some issues. Just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Appreciate it. Let's go online. Counselor Santiago.
Thank you. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and thank you, staff and my fellow counselors, and have a safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Let's go Counselor LaFrance.
Turn them off.
All right, switch it up.
Wake up.
Yeah, right. The Economic Development Committee met this past week. The mayor and I were in attendance, and they voted and approved their recommended EDC goals for council. They'll be presenting on them before we meet in January for our goal setting. So looking forward, stay tuned to those goals. And then happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. Counselor Holmes.
Yeah, I do want to raise a point. One of the communications that City Manager Rains sent over the past couple of weeks, one of the many, you've been very busy, was highlighting a new decision that came out around recreational immunity that's been provided to cities, which really allows us to create lovely open public spaces for people to enjoy without risk of liability if people injure themselves there. So this was in the League of Oregon Cities newsletter, and also stood out to me. And so when Alex sent her message, I said, yeah, this is great to highlight because this could be a big risk. So City of Newport, there was a woman who was using a trail to access the beach, fell and injured herself, and ultimately the courts determined that she was not using the trail recreating, it was more for access. So think about how this could equate to our community. We've got Veterans Park. We're looking at, potentially building a corridor of connection. Think if there's someone walking from the neighborhood above Veterans, down to part of the city, fall, injure themselves, the city could be at risk. So in talking with Alex around some of the concerns with this new decision, it does seem that the legislature in the past has, when there have been court decisions, that, cause the potential risk in areas that the legislature is pretty good at working to restore some of those protections and immunity. And so this might be the case again in the upcoming legislative session. It's going to be a short session. It's going to be really packed and busy, but it might be worth council writing a letter perhaps to some of our elected officials, encouraging them to take this issue on. League of Oregon Cities is going to make this a priority issue, right, for the legislative session. So having been on the Parks and Rec Committee and really having a passion for our public spaces, if council would also agree that this would be something that you would like to kind of champion, that the legislature take on, I would suggest we maybe write a letter.
I would be behind that.
When is the next city county dinner?
I haven't seen the date come out for that
Every
yet,
quarter.
actually.
Mm,
The last one was in mid-October.
Because we might be able to pay all of the cities
Sure.
doing something, and then Senator Weber's usually there too, and
True.
Betsy, so we can kind of rally the troops in a bigger way, maybe.
So maybe if we could create a template
Mhm.
letter prior to then, and then see kind of the timing of that with the county dinner and see, if we could get some bigger impact. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, good in January. Okay, anything else?
Great, that is it. Thank you.
Counselor Miller.
We have high school students back there.
Can you get up and please,
Yeah, if you're volunteers, what
get
are,
up
what
and
are you
give your
guys here for? Just hanging out? Didn't have anything? to-
taking notes? Are you?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's real.
He's usually here.
I see you
missed the
taking
joke.
notes for a class, right? It's not for Mr. Backus's class, right?
Yeah,
Good.
could get an assignment now, though.
We have practice at 7 in the morning, so I expect you to be there. The report. We do. though.
So I don't have anything other than I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Grayson.
We met as a traffic safety committee a couple of weeks ago in conjunction with some representatives from the school district in regards to the crosswalks near our schools across Highway 30. We have a representative from ODOT that attends those meetings. He's been very responsive to the questions we've had in regards to updates on our school zones along Highway 30 in terms of lighting and signage. We're looking into crosswalk, more audible warnings or notification in terms of when people are walking, some of those loud beepings or an actual robot that talks, that says walk. Other ways to notify pedestrians in terms of those safe times to cross the highway. We've talked about the timing of the lights. Unfortunately, right now, there isn't any sort of school zone signage near the high school. It just isn't something that the state really does around high schools for some reason. And so our school zone signage along Highway 30 actually only accommodates the middle school. But I did make the note that while they are claiming that the high school does not need school zone representation, along that same road of High School Way are 2 elementary schools, and that we should in fact have school zone notification in that area as you come into town from the south moving north, as well as moving south from the north as you enter into the high school zone, that it's more of an elementary school zone in that area, not necessarily high school. So we have some ongoing discussions. The middle school principal was working on some sort of a coalition to have people doing crosswalk management in the mornings and at dismissal, kind of like a flag ad hoc sort of volunteer situation to manage traffic. But the ODOT representative said that can be a bit tricky. Not a lot of people follow the same sort of methods in terms of directing traffic. And if we were interested in having some volunteers go through a program where they would be officially trained, that is something ODOT would allow them to do and be permitted to do, to go to these classes. the chief gave some great input on an organization that the school district could pay. Unfortunately, that's quite a large sum of money. So again, just a lot of ideas floating around to keep our school zones extra safe. The lieutenant was involved in that meeting and assured that while, we do have other commitments, to the broader community, that at any point in the mornings when they're able to, there are officers in our school zones, and I am very thankful to see them there in a variety of spaces. So that's my update with traffic safety, and I wish you all a lovely, lovely holiday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. From our National Historical Society, they do have 24 houses, I think, at least signed up for the Christmas tree lighting. So that's great. And they wanted to remind us Whoville starts December 2nd. So we expect everybody to go through the house and see Whoville. It's decorated really nicely. I wanted to thank the high schoolers for coming tonight. This is the biggest crowd we've had this late in the show. That's usually leave after public comment. So thank you very much for showing up. Now we recruit and multiply. And this time here, I'm very thankful for the staff. 11 months as mayor, it's been great, led by Ms. Rains. They've been very helpful and made this 11 months very, it's gone by fast. And like they said, drinking out of a fire hydrant, I think it's starting to turn down a little bit. But I wanted to thank the staff for all their help and support so far. It's been great. And with that, we're adjourned.